The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Chapter 33. Summoned from Sanctuary. There was someone standing at the front desk, and though Gold did not recognize him in the blue-gray uniform, the man's eyes lit up as he turned. He hastened toward Gold, and his name tag came into view. Gold looked from the tag to the face with mild surprise. "Tom? What are you doing here?" The former Rocket straightened the cap on his head. "The Wise Trio kept me out of jail," he said, with a slight grimace of a smile. "I just became a janitor for the Pokemon Center." He looked at Gold questioningly. "Did your father already find you then? I thought he'd be with you." This last statement grabbed Gold's attention. "No, but how did you know I'd be looking for him?" Tom shrugged, tossing a canister of dusting spray between his hands. "He was here about an hour ago, until he suddenly glanced out the window and rushed straight off. He claimed something about seeing the bird, but I didn't see anything when I looked out." "Which way did he go?" asked Gold, excitement welling up in him. Tom strode out the double doors and pointed off into the distance, where Bell Tower loomed majestically. Gold hastily waved his thanks before skipping down the steps and darting off. Had he lingered a few seconds more, he would have seen a figure in a purple tuxedo drift out behind Tom. He was about halfway across town when a sudden and forceful command issued at his back. "Stop, Gold!" The voice was not one that Gold recognized, but he halted all the same. He had heard it before, and now turning to see the speaker, he recognized the clothing from somewhere. "You!" panted Gold, eyeing his white Victorian-style cape. "You're that man from Ilex Forest!" "And you are the boy everyone calls Gold," responded the tuxedo man, also slightly winded. "The one who rides upon Ho-oh's back." He grinned bitterly. "You look unremarkable by all accounts, but I was a fool to think it coincidence, encountering you back then in my pursuit of Suicune." Gold backed away a couple steps, feeling suddenly uncomfortable. They had stopped in a section of town where there were no people about, and with every passing moment, it seemed more and more like a purposeful decision on the tuxedo man's part. "Please don't run," said the man calmly. It sounded like he had already regained his breath. "I'm quite accustomed to chasing much faster quarry than yourself. Besides, it's not you that I want." Gold watched him carefully, his mind racing. "Then what do you want?" "Repayment for a favor owed." The tuxedo man pointed one white-gloved finger at him. "I saved you and your girlfriend from a swarm of killer insects. It ended up costing me my chance at Suicune. Well now, shouldn't one good turn deserve another?" Gold stopped backing away. The man wasn't wrong, but his motives were sketchy at best. "I see," he thought idly. Suicune was the guardian. "What will you do with Suicune?" he asked. The man's eyebrows raised. "So you are somewhat familiar," he said in a pleased tone. "I thought so. Fear not. After years of chasing, I've decided to take a more diplomatic approach, and you are precisely the go-between I require." "To do what?" "To request a battle. A fair battle." Gold eyed him incredulously. "You think that because I rode with the Phoenix, I have any sort of authority here? Don't you? Ho-oh is the master of the three, after all." "Look, mister." Gold put up his hands helplessly. "I'm just trying to find my dad. I haven't seen him in days." "Yeah, I heard." There was no sympathy in the tuxedo man's tone. "I haven't seen Suicune in years. You can wait a little longer, boy. Unlike Suicune, your father isn't going anywhere." His eyes flicked away in the direction of Burn Tower. I know the north wind is right here in town. Something causes the creature to linger, and though I don't know what it could be, I mean to get close. So that I don't spook the creature into running again, I want you to intercede. He smiled. Don't disappoint me again, Gold. You flew out of town before I could see you on Ho-oh's back, but I heard, and I've waited. I counted on your return, and here you are. His smile sharpened to menace. You owe me. A sudden anger flared in Gold's chest. Cut it out with this debt thing! He snapped, causing the man's eyes to widen a little. The bugs were in your way too, and you only saved us so that we'd point you towards Suicune. And to do what? Make it your trophy? He swiped the air with his hand. I don't even know your name, so how can I possibly trust you enough to reveal Suicune's mission here? Leave it alone. There are things happening now that go way beyond Pokemon hunting. The Tuxedo Man hesitated and peered closer at Gold as if trying to read him. However, his eyes soon narrowed. Every moment I waste here is precious, he said in a hard voice, raising a Pokeball. I might have moved sooner, and I almost did, but Alakazam discovered you both at practically the same time. It couldn't be mere coincidence, so I bade my time until I could get you alone. I was counting on you to be more reasonable. I'm trying to be, Gold pleaded. But there's a reason that Suicune and the others are off limits, and a reason that I can't tell you why. What am I supposed to do? He thought frantically. Tell this stranger that his quarry is guarding the most evil man in Johto because we can't entrust him to the police? You're feeding me some pathetic excuses, said the man bitterly, throwing his Pokeball. Clearly, you don't know how important this is to me. Out of the ball came a familiar-looking yellow Pokemon, whose humanoid shape Gold had earlier caught ducking behind a tree. The Alakazam gave Gold a brief, quizzical look before its eyes snapped sideways to the west. I am going to Suicune, with or without you, the Tuxedo Man declared, turning his back. It's a shame you would not help me, Gold, but at least you cannot stop me. Gold felt ready to burst with indignant frustration at the impossible stubbornness of this man. But he and his Alakazam were already off, running at a pace hardly to be believed for someone so stiffly attired. Gold stood there, torn with indecision, in a moment that demanded action. He shifted his gaze from the retreating backs of the hunters to the nearby Tower of Golden Bells, where his father probably stood within shouting distance. He was so close! The seconds elapsed as desire for parental affection tugged at his heart. Surely, he thought, that man is right to say I cannot stop him. What can I do? Suicune won't lose to someone like him, who spent his life chasing and being foiled. I told him to let it be. I did my duty. He felt a twinge of resentment. And why was it my duty anyway? Even if this is all part of the deal, I'm home again. I deserve a break from this craziness. Gold froze in his thoughts. They had been moving almost too fast for him to keep track of, but the idea of I deserve stopped him short. This spirit of entitlement was the very thing that drove the Tuxedo Man to blindly disregard the bigger picture in favor of his own pursuits. In fact, it was the folly of Karen, Apollo, and most of his other enemies, now that he thought about it. Gold gritted his teeth as he allowed himself one last longing look at Bell Tower. Then he rushed off, late but resolved in his pursuit.